Hello and welcome to Design World Z. In this tutorial, we're going to see how we created this from the scratch, step by step, until we smashed it. So, let's begin. First, I selected everything and hit X to delete everything. Then I started by adding a plane. I pressed S to scale it and hit right click to confirm it. After that, I changed the matte cap of the plane. Then I started creating the vase by adding a circle. Then go to edit mode and hit F. Then I hit E to extrude and hit Z to make sure you will extrude it on the Z axis. Then right click and S to scale, and kept on doing the same thing till I finished the main shape. Then I selected the whole loop by holding Alt on the keyboard and hitting the right mouse button. This will select the whole loop. Then I hit Shift and Alt again, and I selected the other loop to select both of them. After that, G to grab and Z to make sure it will be on the Z axis, and I moved the mouse downwards to move the loops down a little bit. Then I hit Ctrl R or Command R to make another loop here. After that, I selected the top face of the vase and I hit X to delete, and I chose faces to delete the face. Then I went to Object Mode and to the Modifiers tab, and I chose the Subdivision Surface. Then I selected the vase, right click and chose Shade Smooth. Then I went to Material Properties tab from this right menu, and I chose New Material to choose the material of the vase. I selected the base color to be dark gray, and I changed the roughness value to be more rough. Then I selected the ground plane and I did the same thing. I changed the base color to dark brown. After that, I selected the vase again, and I went to the Modifiers tab and I chose Solidify, and I changed the value of the thickness to make it more thick. And I moved the bevel modifier down the solidify modifier. After that, I chose faces and I hit Alt to select the whole faces loop, and I went to the material properties tab and I added another material by hitting the plus on the right. Then I hit assign and I started choosing another color for this loop. Then I went to the world properties. Under the film section, I hit transparent to make sure the background will be transparent, and I changed the color of the world. Then I went to the add menu and I added light, area light, then click G and Z to move it upwards, and I changed the amount of the light. Then I selected the plane, Shift D to duplicate it, and G and Z to move it upwards, and S to scale it. Then I selected edges and E and Z to extrude it. Then I selected the top edges and Command B to bevel it like this. After hitting Command B, just scroll the mouse wheel to increase the bevel edges. Then hit the left click to confirm. Don't forget Command S to save. Then I selected the vase and hit G and Z to move it above this step we've just created. Then I hit the snap button in the top of the screen and selected face to make sure my object will snap to faces. Then I moved it again to make sure it's standing exactly on the top of this cube we created. Then I selected the second loop of the different color, and I felt it's too much, so I assigned the same black material to it again. Then I selected the vase again and selected another loop and did the same thing. Of course, you have to make sure you're on the face selection. I selected the other loop and assigned the gold material to it. Then Ctrl or Command S to save. After that, I went to the upper area light and hit Shift D to duplicate it, then R and Y and 90 to rotate it 90 degrees on the Y axis, and G and move it backwards. Then I scaled the ground plane by hitting S and moving the mouse. After that, I selected these two edges and E and Z to extrude it on the Z axis. Then again selected the two edges and Ctrl B to bevel it. I scrolled the wheel for more edges. Then I clicked the left mouse button to confirm. Then I found it would be better for me to make the main shade more darker, so I went to the material properties and I changed the color to a more darker color. Then I chose the other material and edited the roughness value to make it more reflective and shiny. After that, I added a camera and I went to view, align active camera to view, so I can have the camera view aligned with the same view I'm already on. Then I scrolled the mouse wheel button to get closer to the camera. Then I hit N, and from the view menu, I selected camera to view. This will allow me to move the camera. When I move the view, the camera will move with me. So I scrolled the mouse and I moved my view and the camera view as well. Then I went to the scene tab and changed the max samples of viewport to 10 frames. This will make it render faster in the Cycles render engine, and I changed the max samples of the render to 300. Then I rendered this image. After that, I opened another tab by going to the edge of the window, and when you get this crosshead, just left click and move it to the left side, so you will open another tab on the right. Then I went to the shader editor and I opened the preferences add-ons to make sure I'm having the node wrangler on. Then I went to add texture, then noise texture. While selecting the noise texture, I hit Ctrl T, then I deleted the mapping by selecting it and hitting Ctrl X. Then I connected the object to the vector and the factor to the displacement. And here we go, we're having this noise on our plane. Then I changed the scale and the detail values to get this shape. I closed this tab and I selected the walls plane and I hit apply all transforms, and now I'm having this texture for the walls. Then I rendered this image as well. And I rendered another one with another view. Then this time I selected the vase and I went to add texture and checker texture. Again, I hit Ctrl T to get these nodes, connected the factor to the displacement in the output node. I changed the scale. And I added color ramp node. This time I connected the color to the roughness to get this texture, and I rendered this image. Now we finished the modeling and we will start with the animation phase. First thing, I added a UV sphere, moved it to the side and scaled it. I chose the Eevee render engine to make it easier and more clear while moving. Material properties, I changed its color and roughness. Then I made sure to apply all the transformations by going to object mode and hitting Command or Control A and apply rotation and scale for everything. Then I selected my UV sphere and right click on location and rotation and I hit insert keyframes. Then I moved the pointer to like 120 frames and I selected insert keyframes again. On 125 frames, I moved my sphere to the location where I wanted to end in and I added another keyframe. Now I'm having this movement. Then I went to the physics properties tab and I chose rigid body and I made it active. For the background and the plane, I added rigid body and I changed the type to passive. Then when I play the animation, I'm having this animation. I went to the sphere again and I changed the shape to mesh. Now I'm having this animation and that's not what I needed, but it's fine for now. I went to object mode. I selected the annotate tool from the left and I changed the placement from above to face to make sure I'm going to draw with the pencil on the face of the vase to make sure it will not be inside the vase like this. So I deleted this old annotation and I started drawing on the vase itself this shape while I'm sure I'm selecting the surface to draw on the surface. After I finished my drawing, I went to object menu, quick effects and cell fracture. Of course, you need to make sure to go to the preferences and from the add-ons, add the cell fracture. Then I chose annotation pencil and I changed the noise amount to 1 and the source limit. And here I named the collection to parts to make sure all the parts of the vase will be collected in the same collection, named parts. And I waited until it finished rendering. After that, I hit N and I went to view, and I pressed on this eye beside the note to make sure it will hide the drawing. Now I'm having this vase and the original one still there. So I selected the original one and I hid it. I selected all the parts and I went to Object, Rigid Body and Add Active. Then I went to Object, Link and Transfer Data, and I selected Link Animation Data. Now I'm having this animation. Okay, that's cool. I have now to animate the dynamic and the animated properties. So I added a keyframe while the dynamic option is off on frame 0, and I added another keyframe while the animated option is on. Then I went to frame number 123 and I added another keyframe for the animated option and the dynamic option. Then I went to frame 124 and I turned off the animated option and I added another keyframe. And I turned on the dynamic option and I added another keyframe. Now I'm having this animation because it only gets applied to one part. And now I have to copy these keyframes to the other parts of the vase. So I selected all the parts and went to Object, Animation, Link Transfer Data, and I linked Animation Data. Then I went to Object, Rigid Body, and Copy from Active. And now I'm having this animation. So I didn't like the animation of the sphere, so I stopped at the keyframe where the sphere is hitting the vase and I added another keyframe here and I deleted the last keyframe where the sphere passed through the vase. So now I'm having this animation, but first I had to add animation keyframes to make sure it's animated until it hits the vase and then it will be dynamic. So I added the animated keyframes. After that, I moved the lights to a better position and I changed the power values of the lights to make sure I will be having better lighting. I added another area light and I changed the color of the upper lighting. And I moved the sphere backwards because I was having the sphere appearing in my camera. Then I went to the scene properties and under cache, I selected delete all bakes and bake again to make sure I will be having the right animation. I scaled the background plane up and I baked everything again. And now for the camera movement, I selected camera to view from the view tab and I animated the location and rotation by inserting a keyframe on frame 1. Then I went to frame 40 and I moved the camera and I inserted another keyframe for the new location and rotation. On the timeline, I went to frame 79 and I moved the camera and moved the pointer to the timeline and hit I and select only selected channels to add a keyframe only for the selected channels. I kept doing the same thing, change the camera view, then inserting keyframes on the timeline till I got this animation. And that's it. I hope you liked the video. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to support us. Thank you so much for your time and see you in the next tutorial. Bye!